What is up, everyone? Happy Sunday. Today's Sunday, March 17th. Hope you all had a great weekend. I have a handful of names that I want to go through real quick. Before we do that, let's just take a look at who reports earnings this week. This week we have MU, Nike, PDD, Lulu, FedEx, Chewy, XPEV, JKS Solar Company, NIU, which is an electric scooter company. Who else? Five Below Retail. Who else? That's about it for what I see. Nike stands out to me. Lulu stands out to me. Obviously, MU is going to be a big one. Chewy is going to be a big one. FedEx is going to be a big one. And even like JKS is probably indicative of what's going on in that industry over there with solar. So something to watch for this week. Let me see. I don't think we have anything loaded in the economic calendar yet, but I think that there might be some Fed activity this week, but we'll confirm tomorrow in the morning. Going on to the chart, I'm going to focus on weekly charts this week, only because, I was looking at some of the, revisiting the last couple of weeks, weekly watch list, and the weekly really gives strong direction, strong conviction. And I think that more than anything, I think this week is going to be very important for us to keep our eyes on the overall, not the day-to-day, but the overall kind of energy that the market is giving us, whether bullish or bearish. I think that this week is going to be an interesting week for follow-through, especially since we have a lot of, you'll see during our talk, we'll have a lot of inside week setups. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The first one is SPX. Obviously, SPX now I'll leave all these levels here intact, but for the most part, SPX is forming an inside week on the weekly chart. Price hasn't broken above or below the range of the previous week. Let me just change my, this was bothering me a couple of weeks ago, so I just want to change it now. My crosshair, make it dotted. Okay, cool. All right, much better. So SPX last week hasn't broken above or below the previous week's range. It did form the body slightly lower than the previous week's body, right? So we brought the trend. The trend is coming down a little bit, small little pullback here. Also, this is the first week since the beginning of the year, right, where we had a lower high on the week. Every week since the beginning of the year has been higher highs. This is, again, a lower, the second lower high of the year. So that's just something that's noteworthy in my opinion. Will it actually shake out to mean something? Who knows? But I just wanted to point that out. Inside week, big wick on the top side of this can potentially lead to a pullback to the 20-day moving average, which we haven't quite gotten. I mean, we did get it on this week. We haven't gotten it ever since we went sideways. This is the second week of pretty much going sideways. So we'll see. Again, just an observation, not speculating here. Next one is QQQ. QQQ broke down the weekly low, made a new lower low, but then bounced and went right back into the close within the range of the previous week. So I think that's pretty interesting. It did close below the 20-day moving average. It closed below this week as well. So this thing looks like it's ranging downward now, right? Let me go ahead and just point this out. Now, again, this is like a fast and dirty, because if I want to get technical, I want to include all of the wicks here, which would include this one. But for the most part, you see the bodies are trending downward. You see that price went lower each week. It came down to a lower level each week. And QQQ is actually broken down below the 20-day moving average, which is this tan line here. So, again, just something to note. If we do break down and go flush below this level here at 433.65, the next target is going to be 428.36. Underneath that, we got 421.73. But between those two levels, we have the 50-day moving average, which usually does well to hold up tech in general, but I would think QQQ as a whole, right? Next one is XLE. XLE made a monster move. This, obviously, it's been making a strong move since the beginning of January. where it's been making higher highs and higher lows week by week. But this past week, it broke through there's a little bit of a supply zone that was sitting here, and it broke right through it. So we want to see XLE fill this wick here, and then work its way to fill this wick up here, right? So the first target for XLE, to be extremely bullish will be 92.61. Above that, into 93.68. And right now, price is at 91.56. So just like $2 or $3 to the upside will give us a little bit of clearance to get into all-time highs, which will be at, I believe, here at 94.71. So just a few dollars away from all-time highs. Price, if you just look at it holistically, price is higher highs and higher lows on the weekly, but then just like on the monthly and even on the annually, we got higher lows forming each time. It almost looks like a triple tap on the larger time frames, right? Just looking back. Oh, and then we have highs over here. So that's not all-time high there. We actually have an all-time high here at 101.59 would be the all-time high for XLE. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. That's, if we get through this triple tap with higher lows trending upward, then we can break through that 93.31 and work our way into 101.52. But good energy for XLE, especially when QQQ, again, QQQ pulls back, XLE goes forward. So that relationship seems to have been restored. So all is well in the market. Next one's XLF. XLF sitting in a current supply zone where sellers are just sitting here waiting for their sell orders to be filled. You can tell by the way that XLF kind of entered the zone here and pulled back. So we want to see XLF work its way. I mean, look how it's been doing since the end of October. Just higher highs each and every week. We had an inside week here, kind of ripped up, broke the range to the downside, and then bounced from there, right? Been riding that 20-day moving average. So I think that we continue on XLF. Looks like the trend is strong enough. With rates falling, that's very beneficial for XLF because what they'll make up, what they'll lose in their fees, they'll make up in volume because more people will be open to borrowing, et cetera, for XLF. So JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whoever your favorite banks are, go ahead and keep them on watch. IWM. I like what IWM is doing. Again, I don't have a full, and I watch it a little bit, like once a week. I'll take a look at it. I don't watch it daily because to me, like it's stuck within a range that I just quite can't make sense of it. But when you look at it on the weekly, it looks great because you have kind of this area consolidation here. Then it falls down, fell within this range, broke up above the range slightly, came back down, made a higher low, found some support on the moving averages, and now it broke through, made a new high, and now it's pulling back to previous resistance. So it looks like it wants to turn that resistance into support. See some buying pressure at the end of this candlestick towards the bottom of it. So we kind of want to see, especially with quad witching last week, a little bit of few days back to back of sell pressure. That affects all of this. So if the market is done with that and is ready to turn around, this is a good spot for IWM to find support where there was previous resistance. We're sitting right on that 20-day moving average. We got some upside levels here at 209 and 212 for this week for IWM. So, all right, let's go ahead and get my list. I got maybe 20 names to go through, so I'm just going to go through them as quickly as possible. First one's NVIDIA. NVIDIA on the weekly is forming an inside bar. Price hasn't broken above or below the previous week's range. And it is a green candlestick. I know that, people who are unfamiliar with my charting style, the white candles are green up candles, the clear candles are red candles, right? So as we all know, good consolidation, good strong move, nice buying pressure, good bodies getting tighter, range getting tighter, a little bit of a spring formed here, and then it ripped on the weekly. It's just been absolutely ripping for the past 10 weeks or so. And we had a little bit of indecision week, a rippy week, inside week, continuation move, inside week. The difference between these 2 weeks, though, is you have that kind of rip, and then you have a little bit of a sell pressure here, and then price kind of opened up within the wick, came down, didn't really force its way down into some of this territory. So stayed above the top upper range of this candlestick and closed just underneath that previous candle to still form an inside week. and price continued to work its way up. It gapped up, came back and filled a little bit of the gap, and then worked its way continue up. Now this last week, right, 2 weeks ago, Monday, the week of the 4th, which would be 2 weeks ago tomorrow, right? It started, and I mean that week, big strong sell pressure at the top of that wick, or sorry, at the top of that candlestick, right? Big long wick at the top of that candlestick. Again, we kind of opened up, made a new low, not a new low, but made a low for the week, inside within the range of the previous week, and then tried again, but then seller stepped in. So this is just all sellers right here. There's all sellers in this area. So realistically, I want to see how price reacts to this level. If it can't, now there's only, it might go sideways, but what I expect for it to do is, if it's going to show strength, you'll see a candlestick such as this one here, right? This candlestick where it'll kind of like form the body within the wick here, a little bit of sell pressure, a little bit of buyer pressure here, but like for the most part, it's going to be a full body right within this wick. And then from there, the entry price will be above 919.37, break through that, and then work its way into 974 as a final target. That's if you got strength in the market, right? For buyers. Now, if for whatever reason the bears are in charge, you'll see again one more wick forming on here. And again, this is a weekly, so you might get Monday, you might get a nice strong move to the upside. Tuesday, you might get a nice flush to the downside. So once you see that wick start to form, you can start to target some of these levels. Let's look at this on the daily real quick. So you might get a candle that starts to form right in this area here. And then it looks like there's support at this pink line here at 878-ish and change, around that level. So you might get some candles that form to the upside. But if it doesn't break this line here and you see any kind of red candles work its way into this area, I would venture to say that it's going to go lower. I would venture to say that it's going to come back to this 841.25 or at least this 20-day moving average. Now, so I'll be looking for maybe a move to try to fill this wick here on Monday. Maybe a little bit on Tuesday to the upside, a little fake out, and then push down. This looks like it's in a holding pattern, strong move to the upside, big flush to the downside. And now it's all prices within these two candlesticks pretty much, right? These two candlesticks, the one from last week Friday and from last week Monday. 2 weeks ago Friday, last week Monday. I could actually do, is that going to work if I do? Yeah, the 2-day chart will show it. So on a 2-day chart, strong, big, strong candlestick to the downside, and then a little bit of a bounce, inside bar, one bar, which is inside bar, right? And then I think we look like we might actually have another inside bar here. Let me take a look. The lows, 862.57, 861. Yeah, so double inside bar on the 2-day chart, double inside bar. Now, because this is a red bar, it looks like it wants to work its way down. There's a little bit of buyers sitting here. So it's up to these buyers to keep price up right here, right? The 2 days probably the clearest chart you'll see on this. So inside on a weekly, double inside on a 2-day chart. Very, very interesting setup. Very rare setup. So it looks like sellers might be in control. I'll keep my levels here intact. These are the same levels that I had as of last week. So we'll keep those intact for now, and maybe we'll target this 20-day moving average on NVIDIA. And it wouldn't be bad for NVIDIA to give us a nice, strong move since the beginning of January. Give us a little pullback, right? 2, 3, maybe a couple weeks pullback. Find some support maybe around this area, 783, and then from there work its way back up into making new highs, right? Next one is CVS. I'm loving CVS on a weekly. Let me just zoom out so you can see. I mean, I think this wedge is a little bit exaggerated where it came from, right? But it is what it is. I want to see, price has been holding this rising support level, holding the 200-day moving average, holding, kind of held the 50-day until it rejected, then kind of worked its way back up above it. That's a show of strength for me, especially on a weekly. That's after earnings and everything. So there's no earnings that's pushing it back up, right? There's nothing like an artificial catalyst. That's just price action. So if price can make it above this little bit of a supply zone that's sitting here, I think we can target this box back here, pretty much this candlestick around $78 and change, 78, 72, right? $79 and change. And then above that, we can potentially see what happens at the edge of this resistance line. Now, again, you saw where point A on this was. Point A on this resistance was way back here, way back here in November 2022, October 2022, right? Over a year ago. So this might not even come to play, right? It might be something more like, again, I just did it just for symmetry or whatever the case is, but it might be something more like this, right? It could be like that. It could also easily be like this. It could easily be something like this, right? We won't know until we get there. We won't know until we get there. So, the point is, I think I'll target 79 for this week. As long as we get the push above this, all this resistance here, strong moves to the upside, right? Especially after making higher lows on a weekly. Strong moves to the upside, target 79. Above that, we can target 82. And then above 82, we kind of figure, okay, there's a lot of sellers in this area. I don't know if they're going to be at 82. I don't know if they'll be at 83. I don't know if they'll be down here at 80, right? But those are going to be my targets for the upside, especially if we break above this level here, 78.83. Last time we broke above, we made a strong push to the upside. We closed up at a high of 82.17. The following week, we made a high of 83.25. So there's no reason why we wouldn't revisit some of these highs. I'm not trying to make up numbers here. These are just previous levels that we've been at. So why not revisit them, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just set these as potential targets. Obviously, if we get above this level here, this shaded area here, that shaded area there. For CVS, but I do like it to the upside. Next one is JP Morgan. JP Morgan just, it's just an absolute monster. So I'll be watching XLF. As long as XLF is showing strength, you can go ahead and continue working your way into JP Morgan. I was looking for a little bit more of a pullback to pull back into this area here, 184 and change. It didn't give it to me. It immediately ripped my face off. So I had a bad read on it, but maybe we'll get it this week or maybe we won't get it at all. But I do like it for continuation, especially now since it's, and this is a similar setup that I showed with NVIDIA. Good wick on this candlestick, which led me to believe we're going to sell off a little bit. And we did, right? We gapped down, we opened down here, we made a new low, and then buyers took control immediately. And we made a new higher high. So, let's see what happens. So far, it's just been trending higher. We did have the inside bar here with a continuation ever since we made that. So let's look at the daily on it real quick. And we did get some small pullbacks, but the buyers are still very much in effect here. It looks like they just brought it sideways in order for it to get close to that 20-day moving average. We last time we were here, we tapped on it and we bounced. The previous time we were on it, we kind of consolidated, went underneath it, consolidated, and then ripped above it. So maybe it's looking to just target it one more time. I don't know. But if we hold this current level, there's no reason why we wouldn't be at 195 in the next week or two. Right? We're at 190. There's no reason why we wouldn't be at 195 in the next week. So interesting look on JP Morgan. Next one's Tesla. My target for Tesla is 152.37. We did, just for perspective, we have the falling, the bear flag here, strong move to the downside, slight pullback, retesting some of this previous support here, flipping to turn into resistance, strong push to the downside, right? Big, strong candle to break through take out all these lows here, sweep all these lows, and then a continuation move. It came in and back tested some of this previous support, found resistance, pushed down. So I'm looking for, I'm interested to see how many buyers are sitting in this candlestick right here. See this wick right here? That wick? I'm interested to see how many buyers are sitting in that level there. I think that we come back and retest that 152.37. I know a lot of people that have a much more aggressive price target of 140, 130. If we do get to those levels, I would advise personally that Tesla, you should be loaded up on shares, especially as it gets, if it's possible for it to get down to 100 again. I mean, that's an absolute steal for Tesla, in my personal opinion. Putting the politics aside and all that stuff, and just like holistically looking at the company itself. It's not a car company, just put it like that. And I did see something about Tesla raising their prices on the Model Y $1,000. So I would expect for that to shake out positively for the share price, but who knows? I would love for it to come down to 152. I think this is a perfect area for it to come back and retest. It has been trending lower, right? Making lower highs and lower lows on a weekly. So why not continue to make lower highs and lower lows? Somebody said they had a price target of 140. I think even like Jake said, he has something like 130 something. You load it. It was either 143 or 134, something like that. So, but I think it goes lower. Tesla's headed toward golden pocket fib 0.5 to 0.618. Where is it? Where's your Where's your fib? Let me go ahead and draw this. Yeah, it's not from there because it would have to be, actually it's probably one of these like super, yeah, one of these wild ones. Let me draw it and see if I can identify the one you're looking at. I don't think it's not this one either. Because it's below these already. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it is. No, it's below all of them. Let me know your 0 and your 100, and I'll draw it on mine. But that's interesting. If it does get into that 0.5, if there's a 0.5 fib or a 0.618 fib that's sitting down here in this level, that might be a sweet spot for Tesla to reverse, right? It might be a sweet spot for Tesla to say, you know what, let's turn around, let's find some support here. Let's see, maybe it's here. No. So I do think it goes lower, personally. Next one's Netflix. Netflix on the weekly. Yes, so I have a double inside bar on the weekly. I think we broke above I think this week broke above the previous week's high. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it did by like $4. But the range is so tight that I would consider it to be just within the same range pretty much. This week, we have an inside week for sure. For sure. It is going sideways. You see buyers are still active in this area here. Back where sellers were active, now buyers are active in the same zone. So, right, see buyers and sellers kind of flip places here. And it almost looks like it's in a holding pattern where it wants to wait for the 20-day moving average to catch up, just like it did back here. So it might just go sideways for another week. In terms of catalysts, they don't really have much going on. There's something about rethinking. This seems like Wall Street Journal. It seems like a fluff piece for Netflix to like a PR piece. Maybe, I don't know. They do have earnings coming up in about 6 weeks or so, or less than 6 weeks. Anyway, I like the fact that it's sitting inside of an inside bar. It's rejecting at 619, which is a previous area that I had, support resistance flip. It's still finding resistance in that area. If buyers take control and if it rips above that 619, that'll be a very, very nice spot for Netflix to live. And then we're very close to all-time high with Netflix. So something to keep in mind. Either the 20-day moving average or that $619 mark. One of those two is going to give soon. So it really depends on who. But I do love the inside bar, right? And then, usually I like to set my targets like break above this level, we got the previous level. Break below that level, we got the previous level. For these, it's so tight that I'm not going to say, hey, this is the level, that's the level. I just think that there's going to be a big, strong candlestick, something like this. You see, we had the inside bar here, right? Inside bar here, and then strong move to the upside. We have a little bit of an inside bar here, nothing crazy. I don't know if it just looks like we're gonna get a strong move. I don't know if it's gonna go up or down. I can't tell you. This is an area. This is like right around the 50% mark of this candlestick. Sellers want it there, buyers want it there. So it's gonna be interesting to see who takes control of it. Let me get through my first line and I'll jump into these names. Actually, I have RCL, so we'll talk about those names with RCL. Let me get through a few more, and then we'll talk about UAL and DAL. Next one's TSM. Again, TSM on a weekly chart. Inside bar, right? Inside bar, sitting above the 20-day moving average. I want to see, obviously there's a bunch of sellers sitting in this area. They have a dividend payout coming out tomorrow. Usually price dips a little bit. Is that the X date? Actually, let me see. Oh no, that's the X date. So it's nothing. It's nothing. Usually you get some buyers stepping in before the X date, but I don't think dividend investors are really interested in TSM, if we're being honest. So looking at the daily on this, so let's drive the sentiment. We have weekly. We have nice consolidation, strong moves to the upside, which caused me to play it last week. That's why the reason why we jumped into it, because of this setup right here, right? And a nice pop, big sell pressure that continued into last week. So I think that, and then you see that it bounced off kind of like where the 20-day moving average is, where previous resistance was. So now, based on how much sell pressure there is here, I think it continues to the downside. Let's go to the daily. strong gap to the downside, a little bit of an overreacted move on the open, bounce off the 20-day moving average, and then found some sellers at the very, very top of this candlestick. I think we're going to pin on this 20-day moving average and then try to work our way down into the bottom of this candlestick here. If we do break the 20, we're working our way into that candlestick there. But at the same time, we do have the gap to the upside, so it can go in any direction. I'm not the one. I'm just going to call it how I see it. I think that based on a weekly, there's good push to the downside. People don't mind selling off tech, especially since tech has been paying us pretty much all year. For some of us who have been in TSM for a while, it's been paying us for quite some time. And it's always time to take. There's never a bad time to take profits, right? Especially when it makes a parabolic move like this. If you bought it down here at $100 and now it's at 130, 140, that's a 40% move. And if you're an investor, it's a good enough move for some people, right? So I think it might have a little bit of a pullback in it, but we'll see. Next one's AMD. AMD, same exact thing. I'm looking for a little bit of a, you got good consolidation, strong rip to the upside, good continuation. Bunch of sellers took over and brought it back down and then forced it into the 20-day moving average. Let's look at the weekly. With the weekly, it's holding on to the 20, right? It broke it, the daily. It broke it on Thursday and then kind of jumped to stay above it on Friday. So we'll see. We'll see who keeps control here, whether buyers or sellers. Now, if it does break down, there's a lot of support over here. A lot of support. You see a lot of buyers sitting at this level here. Probably the most elevated volume, price volume shelf will be here at like 176 and change, right? You could just see it. You can see how many candlesticks go across that line. And those tend to be magnetic, so I think that's probably where we're headed, 176, right where the 50 is. But that's if we don't hold this 20-day moving average. So if we hold the 20, we could work our way up. Actually, if we hold the 20, we have a nice little potential for a pivot machine gun to the upside with a gap, right? A little gap right there. So that would be a nice move for AMD. Otherwise, if we can't hold that 20, we're going to work our way down into probably that 176 where we'll meet that 50-day moving average. That's AMD. Let's look at UAL. That's AMD. Look at UAL on the weekly. Interesting. So UAL, strong move down, a little bit of a bounce, higher low, higher high. So trending upwards, right? Almost kind of forming. Let's just call it what it is, right? Almost kind of forming a rising wedge a little bit, right? Almost. Probably cleaner if I do it from here. All right, so I see price is rising, trending upward. A lot of buy pressure sitting at the bottom of this candlestick, retracing into the previous candlestick, right? So we had a strong move up, consolidation, strong move up, sellers selling at that 200-day moving average, buyers buying at the 50-day moving average, right? So let's look at the daily on this. They had earnings back here, and they had a positive earnings on both ends. Strong move up, down, up, good consolidation, decent rip down, but buyers like it and brought it back up. So I think that based on what I'm seeing here, this is probably gonna, if it breaks above day high, it'll target that level there. It'll come back to this level, and then it'll work its way back to 45.18. If we undo, like if we work our way and start breaking down this candlestick, we can target the low of day. From there, I would target the 50, and then I might chill. If you're aggressive, you probably want to target 41.99. You just set a target, set a line there. Right, so take a break of high day. We got the 20-day moving average there, which looks to be a little bit inconsequential. I mean, you got some reaction on it here. You got a little bit of reaction on it here. You got some buyers on it here, but I don't know if that's the 20 or the 50. Right, I don't know if that's the 20 or the 50. But you got the 20 sitting there at 43.96. The first target to the upside would be 44.10. The next target would be 44.45. Above that, we got 45.18. And then below, we got the 50-day moving average, which is probably going to act as support for this, especially since it's pulled back, right? It found the 200-day pulled back, and then buyer stepped in and brought it up, making a higher low on the weekly. So very interesting. Delta showing a little bit more strength than United. Delta looks like it's set in an area where I mean, there's a lot of interesting price action occurring at this area here. Previous resistance, ripped to the upside, bounced at a support level, consolidated, flushed down, came back, retested that consolidation area. Supply zone, strong push down, came back, supply zone, strong push down, and now kind of ripped through it, and now going sideways alongside the supply zone. So decent spot. I don't know how strong of a supply it is, especially since it's been here 3 or 4 times. We do have an inside week where prices, actually we have a double inside week where price has been contracting. Double inside day. Wednesday we had a strong move to the upside out of this consolidation. Thursday we had some sell pressure, some sellers, who took profit. Friday we had a little bit of buyers, people who may be swinging into next week. So I love this setup. I think this is beautifully set up in both directions. If it breaks to the downside, we have a pivot machine gun. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive lows, so it can really rip down. And I would check, if you're interested in that, I would check the short interest on this. See if it's pretty high, then maybe there's something there. Otherwise, pretty much identical setup to the upside where it can rip through all these targets to the upside. And then look at UAL, look at AAL, and DAL will probably be doing the same thing. The only thing that I think goes against some of these names is Boeing, although I think investors are sophisticated enough to know that they're not the same, right? Like Boeing is ahead of UAL, DAL, et cetera, in the supply chain. These companies are customers of Boeing. Even though they're the ones that are gonna get the lawsuits, right? The lawsuits go to the airlines, not necessarily the manufacturer. The airlines, if they're smart, they'll sue the manufacturer, but then they're gonna put a dent in their relationship with the manufacturer. So interesting dynamic there by Boeing, right? But there's a nice potential pivot to the downside. It can come back and target this 41.58. Underneath that, if it does target 41.58, we'll clear that 20-day. We can target the 50 underneath that. And again, break above some of these levels. We got 44.47, then we got 45.79 to the upside for Delta. Delta has a very, very nice setup. All right, let's look at Starbucks. Starbucks, I think it has more downside. We did have this kind of wedge that's been forming on a weekly. We did break down. We didn't come back and even try to test that resistance level. We just kind of consolidated and ripped to the downside. 3 back-to-back lower lows on a weekly. We got 89.21 as a potential target, and then we got 84.17. Underneath that, we got 81.30 for Starbucks. I'm just, and then if it does kind of work its way back up, we got the 50-day, the 20-day, all there kind of waiting to push it back down. So, I would be interested to see how that works out. And I also read an article, so they missed on their earnings a couple of weeks ago. I think this is probably an effect of that. Starbucks also, very interesting. It went, big bar, and the ranges got smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Like almost like a triple inside week, right? Or triple back-to-back inside week. Let's see. 91.67, 91.90, 92.75, 93.07. Right, and then we got 98.36 as a high, 97.99, 97.14, 96.93. So triple inside week, right? This one's inside the range of this one, inside the range of that one, inside the range of that one. And now on this week we broke the range of this week, and now on this week we broke the range of all of these. And on this week we're continuing. So I think it's going to continue strong move to the downside. This is a month of consolidation, finally breaking to the downside. So let's see what happens. Now, buyers can easily step in where they have in the past here at 89.21 and gap it and rip it to the upside. But based on this consolidation and a slow move to the downside, I think we're going to get a nice move back down to 84.17 and change. So I'll be watching Starbucks for puts for the next couple of weeks. Cat's just been playing the trend-based fib. If we look at it, so I think, first of all, on the weekly, there was a nice rip down after earnings, sideways on this week, inside week, break to the upside, continuation, right? So full time frame continuity to the upside, and then a little bit of a pullback, little sideways, slowly just working its way up this ladder, right? I think we broke above the range of Thursday. On Friday, we did by $1. 348.54 is the next level. And then above, if we get to 348.54 by Monday, maybe we can see 358.27 by Friday. So I'll be watching that for this week on CAT. Next one is Disney. So Disney, I thought it was going to happen last week. It didn't, or 2 weeks ago. It didn't happen 2 weeks ago. What I'm looking for is, we had this kind of consolidation, rip to the upside, consolidation all on the 200-day moving average, rip to the upside, strong move, and this is weekly moves, guys. So this is not like herky jerky temporary. These are like very, very strong moves on larger time frames. Strong move on the weekly to the upside. Good consolidation for about 4 weeks. Now it makes 5 weeks. I'm ultimately targeting, we were looking for a break of this level here to go to the downside, break of 109.21 to work its way down, but it held. It's actually forming an inside week. You see a little bit of sell pressure sitting at the top of this candlestick. I want to see if buyers can step in and bring it above the high of this week to target the previous week's high at 115.19, which was a play that we had a couple weeks ago. 115 calls, and above 115.19 we got 118.18. So I'll be looking at Disney primarily for a long play, especially since if you look at the daily chart, the 20-day sitting right there. You got support right here. There's not a lot of risk reward to the downside. The risk reward is way, way better to the upside on this. So I would just, I'm looking for a nice upside setup on this. We do have this falling resistance line here. Price is almost kind of like wedging to the upside as well. So I would just be interested to see which way it goes. There's more room to the upside than there is to the downside, is my thesis on Disney. So I do like it. Next one is Airbnb. I know this isn't a name that we talk about a lot, but I do find interest in it right now. I think that it's set up nicely to continue the move to the upside. We did rip above some of these weekly targets. We failed above 163.24, and then we kind of broke down as support, or our resistance rather. Again, inside week. So for this particular play, I'm interested in. Let me take a sip of water real quick, guys. So for this play, I'm interested in. Good consolidation. Nice strong move to the upside, broke above the, inside bar here, right? This week inside of this week, ripped above, took out both weeks, made a new high. Now we got another inside week. The only thing is this inside week was a green candlestick. This inside week's a red candlestick. So who knows? We got to see where things shake out. And then this isn't a 3-bar play or anything. This is a very, very strong pullback candle. This candle undid a lot of the price action that happened here. Right, we went higher, and then sellers took full control of this candlestick. So, so I have 158.74 and 156.81 as potential targets if we do get a follow through to the downside. Basically, you can keep all these levels intact. I'll be interested in watching it. I like Airbnb to the upside based on this consolidation, strong move up, pullback, consolidation, strong move up. I think that it looks like it's trending in the ups, in a strong direction to the upside, especially with higher highs and higher lows on a weekly. Time frame continuity is with the bulls right now. So if you do see me call out a play for this, it'll likely be to the upside. Let's look at Boeing. Boeing, I like it for puts. For anyone who's listening to this, maybe on YouTube, if you're in the server, you know the vibes with Boeing. But if you're listening to this on YouTube and maybe you're not quite sure what's going on with Boeing, then they just every part of their planes are breaking. They took out one of their, or I'm not gonna say they took anybody out, right? Because we don't know that, but a whistleblower of Boeing, who was an insider, who was speaking about the quality control diminishing, was found dead in his car, moments after the interview or something like that, something crazy like that. Or moments after meeting with Boeing executives or something. I don't know. Anyway, I know funny business. If anyone's interested, you should watch. There's a documentary on Boeing on Netflix. I think it's extremely applicable, especially now that, it's more mainstream, that they're kind of, the product is not good. There was a nice consolidation here on the weekly chart. Price couldn't break below this level at 199.50, right? And it couldn't break above the 200-day moving average. So it was just pinned between these two levels for all this time until it finally broke down last week. Finally, I think that there's going to be momentum to continue this to the downside. So I'll be targeting 176.25, 168.52, and 160.63 for Boeing. So I'll be looking at Boeing for puts this week. Next one is Etsy. Etsy, I like it to the downside, plain and simple. I mean, I was talking about it like a couple of weeks ago where if it didn't break above the 50 or hold above the 50, it would probably work its way back to the downside because like, what do they have to offer? They're spending a bunch of money on ads right now. And I think Etsy is a great product, especially like if you want to buy like nice gifts for your people, nice custom gifts, gifts that, gifts from creators who make something that'll be very special for your people. Etsy is a great place for that. In terms of like stock and like public company, I don't know. Like, they're not really. I don't know if they're really running ads like that. I'm not really visiting Etsy like that. So I do have some downside targets. 61.22. Underneath that, we got 56. 56. Underneath that, we got 48.78. I don't think it'll go that low, but if we do break this H here, 56 is pretty easy. Next one is Snowflake, and then I want to take a look at that Deer, and I want to look at Zillow as well. Snowflake, again, good consolidation, strong move to the upside. This is part of, I think it was Palo Alto or somebody who falls, right? Whoever it was, one of those companies that reported just so bad and just ripped this entire sector down. I think that because of that, I think Snowflake is a great product, but I think there's just right now technical is probably going to be a little bit stronger than anything else. It's almost like too obvious of a play, so people are taking profits. So underneath, and again weekly, so this is just a very pronounced move. Underneath 155.77, we got 142.40. I would probably say that 150s there in between those two levels. I would probably target the 150 puts for the next couple of weeks, maybe April puts. Or maybe April puts at this point. April 150s are going to be the play for Snowflake if it does give you continuation. There's like almost no buying pressure at the bottom of these candlesticks. This one had a little bit, but the rest of them didn't. So for Snowflake. So yeah, Starbucks. I think Starbucks is a solid trade. I'm also a shareholder, and I check pretty much every holding that I have. I check it every day to see what it's doing, even though I know what the weekly chart says. I know I can tell you what the daily chart says 10 different ways. Like, I think that that consolidation to now finally breaking down is what I've kind of been waiting for to call that Starbucks to the downside. Starbucks gives you nice pops to the upside, and I, again, as a shareholder, I'm like, oh, all right, let's go. We're making money today. But the truth is, we can make money in both directions, and it just looks ready to go it looks ready to just rip down. So let's look at John Deere. So CAT. For perspective, CAT is at all-time high. John Deere is a direct competitor. I think John Deere is more, how do you call it? Like, I don't think that John Deere, and I could be wrong. I don't think that John Deere produces, I don't think that John Deere produces commercial grade products, and I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, right? I'm not like a builder. I'm not an architect. I don't deal with these things, so I don't know. But having worked on job sites, I've always seen CAT. Like, CAT is like earth movers and all these things that like big gear that you spend house money on and that you use for 10, 15, 20 years, and it makes you all its money back type of thing, right? Versus John Deere is probably like lawnmowers, and I could be totally wrong. Again, I don't know. That being said, that's why there's a difference between these two charts. Look at CAT, right? CAT's on an absolute tear. And then look at John Deere. John Deere, it looks nice, and it's just technically a different chart. So I just wanted to point that out first before looking at this. They are within the same industry. I think that this ticker is more closely aligned with, like the real estate market. the real estate market and the home building market are slightly separate. They're quote unquote on different parts of the supply chain. But looking at this setup, I mean, this is a absolutely beautiful setup on a weekly. You got you're holding at previous support, right? Holding at previous support. Let me go ahead and mark it right there. Lots of buyers like it at this level. This is a nice strong move on the weekly. I would have loved to catch it on this second week, because you got a nice strong move to the upside. Now it almost looks like an exhaustion candle. An exhaustion candle kind of looks like this, where it's like strong, like the biggest candle in the move, and then things go sideways or things pull back, right? It almost looks like one, but I think that 200 is probably where it'll find that exhaustion. So I would probably target the 200-day moving average on this, 390, 400, right? Maybe the 400 calls, and then you could sell some into that 200-day moving average. Don't wait for it to get in the money. But that is a very, very nice bounce. I think that we go higher before we go lower, especially with that 50-day moving average sitting right there. Let's look at the daily. We filled the gap on a daily. It consolidated right within that gap, so it's like nice and full, right? Nice and full. And now it looks like it wants to work its way into that 390 level. Above that, we got a little bit of consolidation here, so that would be a level 398 to target, and above that, we got 406. So 390, 395-ish. 400-ish, 405-ish. You can play it like that. This is a very nice chart. I haven't seen these premiums in a while, but I think that they're relatively well priced based on just looking at how this thing moves. It's not like, it gets consolidated, and when it gets consolidated like this, price comes down on premiums. And if I recall correctly, I think they're like in the $2 ranges for like $10 out the money. So it's not terrible, right? Not terrible. Let's look at Zillow. So let's see. For those of you who aren't in the community, Zillow, possible overreaction, play off of support area. So, and then this is a daily chart. Is that the daily chart? Yeah. Wow. So yeah, it could be an overreaction off to this level. It broke through this rising support level that I think we spoke about a couple weeks back. Right, I didn't just draw this, right, unconsciously. As I was reading, I didn't just my right hand didn't just take over, right? So it did break below this level. I don't think that this is an overreaction play. So let me continue. And again, I'm just piecing these thoughts together. Some of these companies are just so Boeing. This is a comment towards Boeing. We know what happens. Some of these companies are just like the government. They'll take you out before you take them down. 100%. How can you sue me if you're dead, right? How can you sue me if you're dead? Allegedly, right? Allegedly, Boeing has been around for a long time, right? So let me throw my allegedlys out there. Zillow went the complete opposite way. Had news Friday. The National Association of Realtors reached a legal settlement that paves the way for home buyers and sellers to pay lower commissions. So for those of you that don't know, 3% is a standard on the buy side and on the sell side of a real estate transaction. So any realtors, buy side realtors or sell side realtors that represent you in a transaction, you pay them 3% commission. Usually buyers are responsible for both sides, but you can technically work it out with the sellers where they can pay the sell side, whatever the case is, right? But now there's a legal settlement and an agreement that basically makes precedent that says, you know what, you can, instead of paying 3% off rip, you can negotiate with your realtor, which takes money out of the realtor's pockets and actually might squeeze real estate prices a little bit higher because I don't got to pay this person. Let's say I was ready to pay this person 10%, or 3% of my purchase price. Let's call it $10,000. Now I got another $10,000 I got to add to my offer, right? So it's like kind of a funny place to be in. I don't know if this Zillow move came out. This happened at the same time as that news. The interesting part of Zillow is that they're not a network of realtors. It's just a stock, right? I think it's a stock play more than anything else. It's not like you get data from Zillow. Zillow runs ads. They run ads on their website. I think they collect a premium for people listing on their website. What else? I think that obviously the Z estimate is part of some people's processes. I just don't see like, oh, the real national. I think that like this is. Oh, some people have to now. Like, what did realtors do? Realtors said like, fuck it, buy put. Like, I don't understand. Like I don't think that this. I just don't think that. I understand why people would say, all right, oh, this happened in the news. All right, let's go short Zillow, or Zillow's going to sell, or I'm a shareholder of Zillow, let me sell. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me because the realtors and Zillow are two separate entities. Zillow isn't a public company of realtors. Zillow is just an information website. It's a database essentially. So I don't understand why that would happen. It is a news-based reaction 100%, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why real estate adjacent companies shares decline on NAR settlement. Like, why? Why does that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like, oh, realtors are now not guaranteed 3%. All right, that must mean that as a Zillow shareholder who has nothing to do with real estate or who has nothing to do with realtors making their 3%. Like, I don't understand where it's a very big disconnection for me. So I think it's just an overreaction. But being that what it is, it's sitting underneath the 200-day moving average. It's sitting underneath the 100-day moving average. It's sitting right near this little bounce level. So I think maybe we target that. If we go lower, we might go to 42. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Realistically, I think this probably goes up. That is the daily, so let's go to the 65. I mean, realistically, strong reaction off the 50-day. I think more than anything else, like buyers and sellers just were in too much agreement at these levels here. Here at 57 and here at 55, between 54 and 57, just too much agreement. And it was just easy for buyers to be like, you know what, I'm not buying it here. Like, I'm not buying it here. Like, what? Realtors aren't going to get paid their guaranteed 3%. I'm not buying my Zillow shares here. Like, come on, guys. How's that? Nobody here, but like people who had Zillow who sold it off. Like, I don't think that they're people are just very fickle. They don't understand that those are two separate entities. That's like me saying, Cat is a home builder. People buy earth movers, and now realtors aren't going to get the 3%. So let me sell Cat shares. Like, to me, it's like the same logic. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So. But regardless, so I think that it might bounce and try to get back to this 200-day moving average. So that's going to be the first thing I watch, right? I mean, this might give us a good opportunity to make money. I guess that's the only thing I should care about more than anything else. But it might do one of these, or it might just remount that 200-day moving average and then go sideways on it and then try to work its way back into the previous range. One either that or I don't know. I mean, there are a bunch of buyers sitting here. Yeah, like Zillow has nothing to do with that. That news and Zillow they're just separate. I think people know to react off of news. So really, really good investors, right? Really, really good investors shouldn't care about the news. They should just keep buying every week or whatever your schedule is. Traders aren't responsible for this move, but traders will definitely capitalize on a move like this. Right, so it's good for traders. Based on the fact that it's an overreaction, I mean, the last time that Zillow was at this price was back here in December, the middle of December. So if you didn't buy it back here before it ripped, now's a good chance to buy it again. I mean, I don't know what else to say. But we'll continue to watch it. This can give us some nice volatility in the next few days, just based on this one dramatic ass move. Next one is RCL. RCL on the weekly is sitting. Excuse me. RCL on the weekly, so nice strong move to the upside. Higher highs and higher lows. Consolidated on the 100-day moving average, ripped, and then a bunch of sellers took profit. Bounced off the 200-day moving average, bounced higher high, higher low. And now we're working our way to try to make a new higher high. Are we near? We're right near all-time highs. So that's why we're selling off a little bit. But I think that RCL. I'm going to zoom out because I'm not convinced. I think this actually goes higher. Oh, it doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so we're right at the pre-COVID highs with a little bit of sell pressure. I think that this is going to continue to go up. I mean, it undid all of this. It kind of bounced, little cup of handle, whatever the case is. I think that it deserves to be up this high, and I think it deserves to make new highs. Even though I personally won't be a client of theirs. There's a reason why they're up so high. I mean, look at their earnings. They've been beating on probably on both ends this whole time, right? Let's look back at October, beat on both sides. Right, beat on both sides. They missed on revenue here. And that did bring them down a couple of 3 weeks back to back, and then we kind of recovered in the next 4 weeks. We recovered that little drop. So I think it's going to continue to the upside. I like it to fill this wick first, so I'll be watching for that. Above this wick, we could target 136, and above that, we could target 140 for RCL. Next one, Shopify. Loving Shopify. We do have an inside bar. No, we broke above. Did we 79.80? Oh, we didn't. Oh, we did. We broke above the range of the previous week's high. What I love about this chart is, we're in this area of consolidation. That's it. I mean, I just like when things consolidate because that means usually there's going to be a strong move on the other side of it. You do see some buyers. So you see strong move here, and then a little bit of a broadening occurring here, and then price continued to move up, came back down, retested this support, continued to broaden up to the upside, came back down, retested the support. If we can't break down this level here at around 72.51, I think we're going to go back to retest that high, right? It's all about ranges. We don't break this range here, right? We try to take out the low. We can't take out the low. All right, let's take out the high. Can't take out the high. Go back, take out the low. Like, that's how these things work. So if it doesn't break down below 72.64, I think we work our way to 91.57. And again, it might be 2-3 weeks. It might be a month, but I do like Shopify, especially for that consolidation. I think is great. Next one is Duolingo. Duolingo double inside bar. So I like the range contraction here. As I always say, and I just said a minute ago, range contraction leads to range expansion. We want to see a potential expansion here, maybe to the downside, maybe back to this 50-day, maybe to the upside. Duolingo has not been up here before, so good strength on this move. After earnings, they beat on both sides. Same thing here, although I think by just a smaller margin. Let me see. Look at the percentages here. 183% and 4%, 524% and 2%. So that 2% is weak, but that 524 is crazy. What? 524% above estimate. So strong beat. I think this continues to the upside. I mean, it ripped, a little pullback. Let's go to daily on this. Rip immediately into sell pressure. Sell pressure brought it down, bounced off to 50, went sideways, triple or double inside, range expander, ripped to the upside, retested this previous area. If we find a little bit of candles, green candle forming here, it might come back and retest the high of that range. If it gets above 230, it might go up to 240. So I really like this Duolingo. I know we don't trade it often. I don't love the premiums if I recall them correctly, but I think the setup is very, very nice. Zscaler, I like it to the downside. I think it's going to target that 200-day moving average. It does need to take out that 182 and that 188.56 before it gets into that 200-day moving average. So that's what I'll be watching primarily for Zscaler. And Zscaler is one of those names that, I mean, it's just been, it goes and goes and goes and goes. So now it might just go and go and go to the downside. What I like about it too is we had this inside bar. The reason why I like the downside is because we had this inside bar here, strong range expanding candlestick, inside bar here, continuation move to the downside, break to the downside, and continuation break to the downside. This one we opened here, we went and retested some of this support and some of this sell pressure and found new sell pressure. So I think that we get one more week of downside move before it finds support and turns around. So that's what I'm watching for Zscaler. The next one is Google. I do like Google to the upside. Google was in some hot water based on some bias that the data was showing. Their Gemini, previously known as Bard AI, was showing some biases. and this is supposed to be an unbiased software. So I'm not quite sure. You know what my mind does? My mind tends to rationalize things in a way that, like, and I guess I'm no different than a lot of people, but like, it's like, oh, something, oh, I don't know. I can't even find like a real world example, you know, like maybe the fact that Google's pulling back for 6 weeks in a row, like what in the world is causing that? Oh, look, there just so happens to be something in the news about their algo being biased, right? It could be like they couldn't, maybe they're not related at all, right? And I was here talking shit about all these people, all the Zillow investors, but I suffer from the same thing they do, right? Like, I don't know. But anyway, I think that maybe it just could be people taking profit. Like, look at this move, right? It could easily be people taking profit. It could be people saying, all right, let me sell some Google, buy some TSM, let me buy some NVIDIA, let me buy some ARM, let me buy some SMCI, right? Whatever the case is. So I like Google where it's at. I like how we're in this zone. We came back to retest some of this previous resistance. Now a little buying pressure, a nice little doji at the end of this downtrend. First candle to break trend. This candlestick, this last week candlestick, retest of the 50-day moving average after bouncing off the 200. Haven't been under 200 in quite some time. Last time we were here is when we started the move. Over a year ago, about a year ago, right? Just about a year ago. Break above the 50-day moving average, potential pivot machine gun to the upside on the weekly. So I'll be watching Google for it to take out this past week's high before we can work our way into making new highs. Next one is Walmart. Walmart, I think, I'm not going to call it a meme, but I'm going to call it, I think that's going to be a little bit more interesting. Walmart, they did have the stock split. I think it was a 3-1 or something like that. Yeah, 3-1 split. They paid dividends out. It's not a lot, but I think it's interesting because Walmart, like 10 weeks ago, was at $50 and now it's at $60. That means in 10 weeks it can get to $70. The fact that this thing was trading at $150, $175 just a couple of weeks ago, stock split after good earnings, right? Good earnings. They have a Walmart fulfillment services, which compares to Amazon Fulfilled by Amazon services, which is expanding their marketplace, expands their network, expands their data collection, expands their business. Then you got a nice little good consolidation into that news, good rip to the upside, inside bar, rip continuation. I think that we come back and maybe retest this level. Maybe that's what we're doing now before we continue. I think there's just a strong move baking on this into 63 and 64. So that's what I'll be watching. If I were to draw some levels on this, I would probably use a trend-based fib, and I'll just come back to the bottom of this candlestick right there. Those will be my levels. And I'll definitely adjust these. Who knows? I just don't know. Maybe it's more like this, right? Maybe it's more like that. I don't know. I don't know how far along we are in this move. I don't know where to call it, but maybe it's way further back, right? Maybe it's maybe it's something like this. Maybe it's something like that. That could make sense. Look at the consolidation on this level. Who knows? I like this one, so I'll leave it. Target 63, 65 in the next couple of weeks. And I'll adjust this. Like tomorrow, I'll change it, see how it looks. Based on the new price, the new information that we get tomorrow, which will be a new candlestick that forms. So, but anyway, I like Walmart to the upside. If you do want to go downside, then go ahead and take the low of day into previous, or low of week into the previous week's low. Those will be your targets. I like it to the upside. Full time frame continuity, green candle on the weekly, green candle on the monthly, green candle on the quarterly, green candle on the year. So why would you go short, right? So why go short? There's more strength in the long, so why go short? So that's Walmart. Next one is, and I got just 3 more. Next one's Apple. Apple looks absolutely terrible right now, but I do like the weekly. We do have an inside bar on a weekly at a previous level of consolidation. Every time we were here before, we kind of bounced. if you look to the left, this was a previous resistance level here, previous resistance level here, previous resistance level way back here, right? It flipped to support on during this time. It came back, made support, came back, made support. I don't think it's going to make support again. I'm convinced that Apple still has a little bit more downside to it, but we'll see. I do like the inside bar in an area consolidation. It just makes for an interesting play. So I'll be watching for it to see what it does on the see what it does on see how the candle starts forming on a weekly to see where it shakes out. Right now, Apple has full time frame continuity to the downside. So we want to see maybe it's going to be like let me go to the 2-day. Maybe it ends up being like an H, right? Like a a bear flag to the downside, just like Tesla's doing, right? Bear flag, kind of a rising wedge, little pullback, something like that, before it rips down to 166. There's some full drag racing down my block. Like there's not speed cameras on a block. And I guess it's fun. You got to pay to have fun. So whatever. Next one was this. This is the 2-day. Next one is AKAM. This is to me, just a very, very beautiful, easy downside play. It can easily reverse on everybody, but I do like the rising wedge breakdown. We already have the breakdown. We did not break below the high or the low of this week here yet. We do break down below that level. We can come back and target that $102 mark. That's if the 200-day doesn't act as support. So I do like the setup. Very, very clear H. This is an earnings move, right? Earnings move. After earnings moves to the downside, kind of pull back a little bit, and now it might continue to move to the downside. So that's what I'm looking for. For AKAM, which is in the technology sector for making. They're part of the microchip supply chain. I think they're like closer to TSM than they are to NVIDIA, right? I think they're like further higher up in the supply chain. Actually, I want to look at AMAT real quick before we do that. AMAT, again, someone that's very, very close to TSM on the supply chain. This chart actually looks very similar to TSM and AMD right now. So, if you study the strat, you got that two down, two up, two up, two down, two up. I think it's called like a Randy Jackson. And then you got this two up, inside bar, two continuation, right? So that's bullish. And then you got this two up, two down, which is a reversal, reversal strat. If that's the case, if that reverse strat is the one that's in effect right now, then we can come back and target the low right there, right? So I'm looking for that. Same thing with AMD. I'm looking for a little bit of pullback. Thank you guys. Thank you, Neil, for being on the call. Last one, BBY, and then we'll be done. What time is it? Oh, we're over our time. BBY, loving BBY for the current weekly setup. We have let's see. We had earnings, which gave us a little bit of volatility, broke up above the highs here. Pulled back, made not an inside bar, but kind of inside range bar. And now we have the inside bar, right? Now we have the inside bar. So, yeah, you guys showed out today, man. Really, really thank I guess people are interested this week. But, and again, you guys can go back and go through these calls for the past couple of weeks and just see like these things shake out exactly how we planned them to. Sometimes it's me kind of just pulling levels out of thin air, but for the most part, it's planned. We're all here together seeing these levels live. So, and it's not like egregious random levels. It looks random on a 15-minute when you're trading it, and it's like, what are these kind of levels that are these random levels here? But price always comes back and reacts to them. When you guys are on a call, these levels. You're doing them here with me, so you can see what they are. You can see where they're going to go, etc. I think there's some buying pressure sitting here at the weekly. BBY is kind of a meme name too, so I think that there's some interest there. I think that we break above the previous week's high, go above that, and then we got some of this level to take care of. I just don't know if we're going to get to it, but I just think the setup is interesting, so I wanted to bring it up. If we do spike, and this would be like a short interest play, if we do spike then we can target that $86 mark. But that is it, guys. Let me go to ES real quick. Right now, we're forming on this brand new candle. We're forming an inside bar as expected. It is a green candlestick. It can go any direction. By tomorrow, it might be all the way down here, all the way up here, or same exact spot. But yeah, thank you guys for being on the call with me tonight. It is very meaningful to see you all here preparing for the week. It's more important for you than it is for me because I know how to do this. I'm very happy to do it alone, but I'm very happy. It makes me more happy when I see people that understand that making an extra $25, $30, $40, $50, $150, $500 a week can change your life, right? Let's say, God forbid, something happens and AI takes over, takes everyone's job. We can take some money, put it into the casino that is the options trading market, and at least we know, all right, I need $50 today. I'm gonna make $50 in the market appear from thin air, right? So I think we're all very blessed to be in a position to know how to do that. I think a lot of it is not, it's not just downloaded knowledge. It's you spending time with me at 10:41 Eastern time on a Sunday to make yourselves better. So give yourselves a pat on the back. And thank you for being on this call with me. And I'll see you guys in the morning. All right. Peace.